I'm here with Harold, a systems designer working on Marvel Console Champions, specifically Alliance War, and had some questions for you.
Sounds good.
All right, so the first thing is recently the nodes on the Alliance War map, they've been revealed, which I think was a good change overall, but we're still seeing some hidden nodes.
Right.
How do you guys feel about that? What was kind of, the thoughts behind that? And is there any plans to keep that or change that? Or
Yeah, for sure. So when we were designing the new map, not a lot of people know about this, but we wanted to be very intentional with like the different sections of the map, right? So on the left side of the map, we have like a hard RPG counter, that's the meta. In the middle, we have like a mix of RPG and skill, which we call mechanics. And on the far right, we have a complete skill path, right? So like the idea there on the right side is that you can take any champion you want. As long as you're really skilled at the game, you should be able to overcome those challenges. And obviously we removed like a whole bunch of hidden nodes from the previous map. The reason why we kept one single lane with hidden nodes is like we wanted to maintain or give that path some identity, where it was skill, but you still had to deal with the unknown, kind of not having the information to bring in exactly which champion.
Right.
So the intention there wasn't to allow players to put certain champions that you just couldn't beat. That wasn't our idea. So in terms of are we looking to change it, we're always kind of looking at win rates, player feedback, and data to give us the information we need. And so if we look at it and players are saying that they really don't like the design of that path, and we're seeing like really low win rates, then for sure we're willing to change it up.
Okay.
Yeah.
All right. Cool. So another big change for the past couple seasons now, we've had defensive tactics, and from my experience, I'm really only seeing like two different defensive tactics: the bulwark one, and then the dodge mechanic for small size champions. Seeing those overwhelmingly as the most popular. Is that consistent with what you guys are seeing as well? And do you have any plans to kind of change the defensive tactics going forward?
Right. Yeah, for sure. So yes, that's basically what we're seeing as well. So at the highest tier, we're seeing dodge as kind of the dominant defensive tactic, and then towards the kind of lower tier, we're seeing bulwark, which is the metal champion one. It's definitely not ideal. Like the way we designed our defense tactics, the design intent there was we wanted you to be able to customize your defense, right? And by doing that, we were hoping that when you go into each war, you would see different defenders, right? Because we felt like the player experience going into wars, especially in the previous map, you would see the exact same champions on the same nodes, right?
Yeah.
And the experience in wars, like you're fighting the same guys, and then it became a thing where you knew what to expect. You just had to play the fight perfectly, and we felt like players didn't find that interesting or fun. So the idea behind the defensive tactics is we give you some options, right? Like, for example, the Siphon defense tactic is villains. We actually have a ton of villains in the game, right? More than, like, say, the Bulwark metal ones, right? But what I think players have been doing is they're applying the defense tactics that best fit their current champion. So, for example, for the dodge defense tactic is Domino, Medusa, right? Wasp. And so it just kind of makes their existing defenders stronger. So what we're looking to do with defense tactics moving forward is like, how can we make it so that the other ones become more viable, right? How can we make it so that we kind of bridge that power gap a little bit without boosting the already strong defenders even more?
Okay.
Yeah.
All right, sounds good. Speaking of like mixing things up between wars, the matchmaking, it seems like, and maybe this is just my own personal experience, but it seems like in recent times, seen a lot of repeat matches, maybe more so than ever. Is that something that you guys are looking to change and update for matchmaking? Or
Yeah, for sure. So, obviously with the new opt-in matchmaker, we've gone through a lot of different iterations. And, we don't want to tell you exactly how we're doing the matchmaking. Part of the reason why we redesigned the whole thing was because we wanted to fix collusion, right, at the top end.
Right.
And so with this matchmaker, we've been tuning in a way that we want it to be more competitive, right? That's at the end of the day, we want Alliance Wars to be super competitive, and we want to make sure that the top alliances, at least at the very end of the season, are always playing against the other top alliances, right? We saw situations in the past where, certain alliances with lower prestige somehow made it into the top end. We didn't feel like that was, that's not really competitive, right? Because at the end of the day, you want like the top 10 to kind of play against the top 10. With the repeating matches, I think it's fine to do if, let's say, it's always like, 1 to 5, they kind of play each other more often towards the end of the season. But definitely in the beginning of the season, we want to see more variance, right? So ideally, we want it to be like in the beginning of the season, you see a lot more variety. But then towards the end, you always see kind of like the top 20 alliances battling it out, because that's kind of what the competition's about, right?
Yeah, right. And I mean, sometimes do want to see the same alliance again, get a little bit of revenge. So that's fine if as long as it's not like overly done with the rematches and everything. So okay, all right, cool. Next question is about boosts.
All right.
So especially with this new map, it maybe not for everyone in the war, but it does feel like depending on the path you're taking, certain spots you kind of get. You have to maybe even boost like 3 separate times throughout a war.
Right.
This feels a little bit overwhelming on the player's part.
Yeah.
How do you guys feel about the current boost system, and is there any plans to kind of change things going forward?
Yeah, so I think there's definitely room for improvement there. With the current map and the way the nodes are placed and the way you're using your boost, that was definitely not an intentional design where we're like, okay, if you boost, you can only do like 1 or 2 fights and that's it. I think there's room in the boost system to add some quality of life improvements. So without committing to any specific solutions, the experience right now of like, hey, I don't want to pop my boost because I only get 1 fight out of this, that's not really ideal for us. I don't think it's ideal for you guys either, right? And so yeah, we'll definitely look into that. Can't really promise you when, but it's something that's definitely on our list.
Okay.
Yeah.
All right, sounds good. Changing subjects completely now.
Okay.
I've kind of always wanted to see a smaller scale PvP mode.
Okay.
Is that anything you guys have thought about, or is anything you could talk about there?
Yeah. So working on Alliance Wars, I'm really passionate about competition in the contest, right? And like, if you look outside of Alliance Wars, there's really nothing else that has that level or spirit of competition, right? And so the next closest thing I would say is like, you have like AQ rank rewards or like arenas, which is not really, you don't get that sense of like, hey, I'm competing against other players directly, right? Yeah. And so I'm always looking at ways that we can allow players to kind of challenge each other. And I think on a smaller scale, it becomes more intimate. And if you're able to create stuff like rivalries in the game, like you versus Legacy or things like that, like,
I want to do some trash talking, man.
I think that would be dope, right? Like, so. We're definitely thinking about it. I can't really say if we're working on anything or not, but it's something that I'm definitely looking forward to.
Okay.
Yeah.
All right. So, I mean, just in general, that's something you want to see kind of across the game a bit more. Just that sense of competition and. Yeah.
So like. In our game, we're lucky enough to have people like you that have like really big personalities. You guys do really awesome things in the game, right? And I think that there's room for us to celebrate this more inside the game, right? Like, you guys obviously have like your YouTube channels and all that stuff, but we don't really show off. Like, for example, if you are the first to beat, a piece of new content, why don't we show that off more in the game, right? Or like even on an alliance level, like if For Loki does something really sweet, like why don't we show that to everyone in the game so they have things to aspire to? And also, like, if you did something cool, we want to like recognize you guys for it, right? So I think there's a lot of room in the game to improve on that sort of stuff.
Okay. Yeah. All right. Sounds interesting.
Yeah.
Well, Harold, thank you very much for your time, man.
Thanks, Brian.
Really appreciate it.
Yeah, thanks for talking to me.
And yeah, man, I'm looking forward to seeing what you guys have coming in the future.
Yeah, same here. Sounds good.
All right. Take care.
Thanks, guys.